afternoon, good evening, good metal. My name's Coop and welcome to the Spoken Metal Show. This is the episode where I did a live thing where I went to Liverpool University and spoke. I was a guest lecturer, which is probably the only way I'm ever going to get into university. And I got to speak about a whole range of stuff under the umbrella of podcasting. And it was kind of whole thing about kind of how to start podcasting, the problems that I encountered, some of the things that you found, and then about metal. But then it was really kind of about a whole bigger thing about trying to empower people into kind of doing their own shit and getting off the couch and kind of getting stuff done. It's funny that this is going to be launched now because we are in the midst of this coronavirus outbreak, and I don't need to tell anybody what that is, you know what I mean? So we're all kind of confined to houses, or at least, you know, to not seeing too many people, and certainly, worst of all, not going to live shows and gigs. I went to the last one I went to was at the Saddle, a fantastic little rock club, by the way, that I saw where I went to see Maru, who were fabulous as always, and that was kind of last night, and it kind of felt weird that I've got no more shows coming up, because the shows kind of got a lot of content for this as well. They kind of generated content for this, and it's going to be like, it's okay, I'll find it elsewhere, I guess. It's a okay, I guess, but not really, because it means that, you know, these are people who are working musicians and a living from doing this, and that's not just them, it's the crew as well. I've been speaking to a lot of my friends over this week and last week who were involved in the music industry, be it the lighting engineers, bass techs, drum techs, crew, tour managers, merch guys and girls, and a whole range of people who were. But there's an enormous amount of mechanism that is involved with live music, and that just goes away. It goes away, as does, you know, the hospitality trade and all that. It goes away with this type of thing. And so in the weeks and months as we go on, and hopefully it's as short a time as it possibly can be, I'm going to start talking to some of those people and open up the doors a little bit more than I normally would. I prefer to do these things in person. I'm not going to do that. I'm probably going to do that kind of Discord or whatever it may be, or Skype, or I'll find a way. It doesn't really matter. The thing I do want to say is this, that amidst all of this, I'm going to that's the last thing you're going to hear me mention about it, because there's an awful lot of people out there talking about it, and that's fine. I don't really want to add to that. I don't know enough about what I'm talking about. I know enough about metal just to get through that. So you can find out information anywhere. This is meant to be, or this podcast was meant to be a reprieve, a break from how crazy life could get and how crazy it can get. And it's very crazy at this time now, but it wants to be kind of talked about something else, something that I loved, that I wanted to talk about, that I thought was important. It might be almost impossible to not disconnect the two, because it's so intrinsic to the music thing, but that's going to be elsewhere. There's some fabulous stuff going on out there. I would suggest checking out every one of the band's live shows, which I think is maybe a glimpse into the future of what's going to happen. But certainly my friend Chris Catalyst's doing a live show on Sunday. I strongly recommend that you go and watch that. Fantastic musician, fantastic individual, giving some proceeds to charity and doing a live show there. I know Attic Theory have done some stuff as well, and they've done some fantastic stuff as well. Lauren, who I saw a while back at the Jacaranda, they put a massive list of bands that I've got, like your band camps and patrons and all that type of thing. So I'm going to work my way through that. I'm a massive sort of listener of music. I pull in as much as I can, listen music wise, and this time now is I'm going to spend doing that. I'm just going to spend listening to a whole bunch of metal, which is great, which is fabulous. Unfortunately, the reasons that I'm listening to it are tragic, but I'm going to try and listen to as much as I can, and then we'll see kind of how things work out. We'll have to kind of bend to the way the world works out, but we will, you know, I'm sure we will get through this, and the live scene will be worse off at first, but eventually it will grow and evolve to whatever it needs to be, and that's going to be very interesting times indeed. So that's kind of that day. I'm not going to mention coronavirus again. I'm just going to move forward now and kind of get on with things. This is the when I was a guest lecturer at Liverpool University. Thanks to Ned for asking me to come to do it, and it was really interesting. I'll probably come across as an idiot when I'm trying to sound as though I'm kind of know what I'm talking about. But hopefully there's some parts of this that you enjoy. So if there isn't some parts that you find funny, maybe even some parts that you find inspirational. But take a listen. It's a long one. It's a good sort of hour and a half-ish type of thing. So strap in. You've got enough time now. and sit back and enjoy. And I would suggest then, if you're looking for something to pass the time, go through the whole of the episodes. There's some 70, I think it's the 70th episode. There's 70 odd episodes. Go through them and listen to some as well, see what you think. As always, comments and suggestions are more than welcome. I love all that. And see what we're doing next. I'll have a look at things, and I'm kind of got a lot of free time now, so I'm going to try and invest that and try and do some more interesting stuff for you to listen to and be involved in as well. So there you have it. Got some time off now. Let's spend some time listening to this if you'd like, and hopefully it helps pass time and keep you entertained.
Folks, this is a very sort of different class for us this week. So as you know, this is a mediating popular culture module. And on this module, we've looked a lot at popular music, haven't we? And we've looked at the way in which music gets disseminated through various forms. So we started by looking at radio, then we moved on to television. We talked about what happens when music gets onto the small screen. Then we talked about music on the large screen, and we talked about that in relation to things like documentary form, and then we talked about it in relation to Hollywood cinema and fictional form. And of course, a couple of those sessions have talked about the representation of metal music in those. Now, given that we talked about radio, but we mainly talked about music radio, that got me thinking, what about more in relation to the spoken word? And of course, one of the most thriving spoken word formats over the last decade or more now has been podcasting, which, as you've seen from your reading, some people kind of have tried to understand that as very similar to radio, and also as kind of distinctive from radio in terms of its production, in terms of audience, and so on and so forth. And then what happened is I met Mark Cooper, who's the host of a podcast series, this will be the 70th episode of that podcast series. It's been going for a few years. And Mark hosts a podcast series called The Spoken Metal Show. Myself and Mark met because I was part of something called the Liverpool Metal Music Conference, which was really a panel discussion, and Mark hosted the panel. And we were talking afterwards, and he very kindly invited me to be on one of the podcasts. So I blathered on for an hour or whatever and talked about kind of some of the research I've been doing and some of my interests in metal music. And then I thought, actually, it would be really useful and interesting for you guys, given that that this module's all about what happens when music meets different forms, what happens when music or talk about music is disseminated in different forms, to sort of think about podcasting. And Mark very kindly agreed to come and talk to you guys. But we're not going to sort of structure this as a normal session. So this is a guest lecture in inverted commas, if you like, because Mark's going to kind of lead the session, but he's going to podcast the session, so he's going to record it live. And you guys can ask him questions. I'm certainly going to ask him questions. I've got loads of questions. But I'm very keen for you guys to ask questions about practice, about, okay, so what happens with this kind of show? What happens when we podcast, talk about something that's clearly very important to lots of people, popular music? What happens when we talk about a particular subgenre like metal? What's the purpose of podcasting? What does that do? All of those things, hopefully, we'll get to. So I will hand over to Mark, who I don't know whether he's going to introduce, I don't know how you want to do this, but I'm going to leave it to him, because he's the
okay.
man.
Cheers, Ned. Thanks very much, and thanks for is this the worst shift? The last one when everybody's tired and they just want to get off today? Have I got the worst shift?
I think we're a bit down on numbers, and I think possibly the reason for that is students are quite often going to be away next week because it's
everybody's winding down. I've got the worst crowd, haven't I?
Winding down. So
I'm the worst host, so that's
12 people.
So that's fine. Do I get? Am I a professor now? Can I say that? Do I get like a fellowship? No. Maybe I get like a little scroll or something.
Maybe we can give you a doctorate, but I can tell you it doesn't help, mate.
That's it. That's recorded right now. A doctor of metal. Like yeah. So yeah. Ned's a really cool guy. As much as he writes some really fabulous stuff as well, he writes some really interesting stuff on getting to this as well about metal. But then I see him in the pit and kind of throwing down when OMS were playing, and that's your lecture. I didn't have any lectures like that, man. We're all old guys that didn't understand anything like that. So he's a cool guy. So it's nice to be asked to come and speak about something that I very, very much care a lot about. And something that I kind of completely fell into, very much without a net. And, it was kind of something that's grown into something that's really, really nice and positive, and it's helped me and it's helped other people. And it's a fascinating medium. And I know that's something that you've looked into, kind of how it sociologically affects things as well. And I think that's fascinating too. So this is live without a net. I have no notes. I've no preconceived answers. There's nothing fake here. All of my podcasts are unedited. They're presented as is because there's elements of truth to that. Very much punk rock, very much guerrilla kind of thing where it's presented as is. There it is for everybody to hear it. And that's kind of how this is. So in terms of questions, there is nothing that is taboo, nothing that's not on the table. And I'll do my best to answer everything I can. Ned has some questions, he's going to pepper it with yours. And don't worry if you're there going, I know nothing about metal. That's okay, that's kind of the point we're doing this. But my man there, he's got a 9 Inch Nails top on, so I'm already halfway home here, you know what I mean? I throw in a Trent Reznor story and I'm golden, right? So there's an element of, we'll talk about metal as a thing, and a musical force, if you will, but also the semantics of a podcast and how it's formed, why it's formed, where it leads to, what it can lead to, and what you should do yourself to investigate that. And that's kind of what I really want to get from this, is that I am a guest lecturer, but I'm nothing special in any way, shape or form. Everything that I've done has been through trial and error, through fault and mistake, through trying to figure out kind of what this is. And the fascinating thing about podcasting is it is whatever you would like it to be, as long as you want it to be something. I don't know if that makes sense. So we can do some questions. You want to do that? We'll see, because I'll talk forever quite happily and have no questions if you want, but I think it's probably better if we kind of just throw some stuff out there and let the ball start rolling. So you know, with the 9 Inch Nails top, must want to know something about metal podcasting.
Well, it's a very niche market, I think, you've went into,
yes,
especially for podcasting.
Yeah.
One of the questions I thought about was, obviously, I don't think you do any visual videos.
True. Yeah.
Do you feel like that limits your audience at all?
Completely.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly good looking. So I've kind of stayed away from that, and I'm like, I'm 45, so is someone getting into Bring Me the Horizon, will they immediately see me and go, that's my dad come to pick me up, I don't need to listen to this guy talking about. But you're right, because it's all about avenues. So YouTube is huge, it's absolutely huge sort of thing, to put your work on. But there's a lot of people doing a very similar thing. So there's a lot of people doing microphone, interesting backdrop, and then slating the last Metallica album. And I'm like, do you know what? I could do that, but I don't know if I am. But you're right. Does it limit me? Yeah. Do I get asked every 5 minutes? Why is the YouTube just a picture of the graphic of the podcast? I'm not doing it. Once again, it's knowing what you kind of want to be, kind of reverse engineering that of how you're going to create it. And what I mean by that is that I didn't even want to do a podcast. I hated the sound of my own voice. hated how I looked, hated how the inflections of my voice, hated all that. Everybody hates their own voice. I'm sure Sean Connery hates his own voice, and we love it, you know, I'm sure he does. But the point is, I didn't like the way I looked. I thought that I didn't have that as a visual thing, and so I didn't really want to lean into the YouTube thing. Do you know what? It was fear. And straight away, first question has called me out on my fear. I should have a YouTube channel, you're absolutely right. And I should, well, I have a YouTube channel, but I should 100% lean into that. Is that how you ingest these type of things? Is that YouTube your go-to?
So I don't really watch that pretty much shows you, yeah. So the only podcasts I actually listen to are the Joe Rogan podcast. And
Sure.
H3.
A lot of nods from the room for Joe Rogan. Yeah. Do you watch it or you listen to it?
I watch every
watch.
podcast and all.
Why do you watch it?
I like looking at something, like say if I do my makeup, I like watching something as I'm doing it.
Does that impose where you ingest it? I keep saying ingest,
That's
but
my question. That's centered around my question.
okay, well, feedback.
Yeah, I only came into like listening to podcasts through YouTube, and specifically because I watch quite a lot of YouTubers. So my question was kind of like, do you think, like, I think there's been recently a surge in more podcasts because YouTubers see that as like a new avenue to find like a new audience. So like, what do you think like the benefits or the negatives to YouTubers making their own podcasts?
Yeah.
And do you think that affects the way that podcasts are viewed as like a whole?
Wow, yeah. 100%. So what I would say is that you like Joe Rogan, and when I started listening, I picked the kind of Mount Rushmore of people that I liked. Joe Rogan was on there, Kevin Smith 100% was on there, Adam Carolla, Scroobius Pip. I don't know if anybody are aware of these names that I'm throwing out there. These were all my Mount Rushmore. So it's like, I think they're really good. So as used to be a musician, you rob from the best, genius steals. I took all the best parts of what they were doing and formed my own band, if you will, and did that. The thing I found was that on whatever format du jour you used, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever it was, enforced how you would listen to that. So you watch that whilst you're doing your makeup. You put your iPad or your iPhone there, you do your makeup while you're watching it. Occasionally look over at particular things when they're showing, holding something or showing a video or whatever. But some people I know will only listen to podcasts on long journeys. So they can't watch it, so they can only listen to it. Now, it becomes about the semantics of that then. So if you're listening on YouTube, one of the crappiest things in the world is if you go off the app on YouTube, it stops. It's fucking annoying. We're living 2020 and that's how that way. Really annoying that it does that. And so you can't do it while you're on the go, because you have to have it on your phone, it drains your battery life, and these are all real world life problems that stop you listening to the thing you like to listen to. They'll destroy when YouTube figure this out, and you can switch the app off and you can still hear. They'll just kill everybody, because that's the one barrier. So I had to split it up. I put it all out on different formats, and SoundCloud was the one I found worked the best for me. The kind of visualizations, but because I understood that the people listening to what I was doing were people, crew or tech people from the business and stuff like that, or people who are on long journeys would listen to that. It's the same reason a book's good for some things. So sometimes a book's a great way of ingesting the information. You can listen to it audibly, or ideally you want it in your hands. You want to look at it. So YouTube, is one way. And it's quite a crowded market. And what you find happens with each of the different formats is they start to generate their own negativities. I'm not a negative guy, but I'll explain what I mean. So YouTube, in order to stand out, you'll find YouTubes will do this. Unpacking videos or something. I've got the limited edition Tool album. I'm going to do an unboxing now. And they'll do it because that's a visual thing, you can do it. And that worked so far. Only do something that you can see visually. It's like me going, I'm going to speak at Liverpool John Moores. What, do you want to see a video? Do you want to hear it? Well, it's not going to be very interesting. It's going to be a load of students and that's not going to be that interesting. But if I was like, I'm going to fight one of the students, well, then you are going to want to see that. Yeah. So it informs where you're going. The trouble with that is...
Actually, I would.
Yeah, that's the next show. The trouble with that is that now people go for clickbait, and clickbait visually is something, they'll have like one picture and it'll normally be as horrible as particular parts of a woman to get a man's immediate look in. It'll be someone doing something violent or offensive, and it ends up just going to the dark ends of it. Someone saying, you know, when as a review of the last Tool album, let's say we're talking about Tool, the review of the last Tool album, it'll have someone picture with someone shouting, and it'll be like, Coop reviews the last Tool album, it'll be like, ah, and to get someone to click on that, because that's all you're seeing, that picture, that video. And that's kind of like not where I'm about at all. I don't want to, that's not the race I want to run. So you've got to figure out how you use technology to enhance and not detract from what you're trying to do. And that's a really big battle. Joe Rogan's a good example of it. I'm glad we brought this up, because he does a 2, sometimes 3-hour show, which is an enormous amount of time when you think about it. What he's been forced to do is cut those shows down into 10 and 15-minute vignettes, if you will. So, and it'll say something like, I interviewed Bernie Sanders and he talks about Trump, or Bernie Sanders slams Trump. And the honest to God fact of the reason he's doing that is probably he's not doing it, but his marketing team are doing that is because there are certain people out there that can only ingest small amounts of information, and we're lowering the bar of what intellectually people can listen to. People listen to a 3-hour conversation with Henry Rollins because we want to go deep into that person's belief system. You know, I run to the Joe Rogan podcast that's like 4 hours long, like Elon Musk 3 hours long. I run to that one because I know he's going to talk himself out, and when he finishes talking with all this the blurbs that he's been told and all the scripts he's going to run out of that, and we're going to get him, in 10 minutes. You're not going to, anybody can fake it for 10 minutes, you can't fake it for 3 hours of talking. So sometimes YouTube is the devil I haven't learned to dance with yet. I'm going to have to, but it's not the one I've learned to dance with yet. But it's coming. Yeah. I don't know if that doesn't answer anybody's question, does it?
While we're on the subject of YouTube,
yeah,
and I wondered whether you could talk a little bit about the relationship between Spoken Metal Show and social media.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've noticed that one of the things that you'll do to sort of spread the word about the show is utilise Facebook and things like that. So I wonder if you could say a little bit about that.
I'll do more than a little bit. So it's called the Spoken Metal Show, just so you know, because when I was coming up with a name, and it's all about the name, you have a catchy name, you know, Joe Rogan Experience, you know, whatever it is, Kevin Smith, Fat Man Beyond and all that type of thing. It's got to have a name. And I was like, well, I'm talking about metal, and you have all different kinds of metal, black metal, speed metal, you know, all this type of thing. So you have I'm doing metal, but it's not thrash metal, it's not, what is it? It's a spoken version of metal, spoken. Sure, that's where it comes from. But yeah, so you have to kind of weaponize all these kind of things, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You have to kind of weaponize them and get them working for you. And it's the most soul-destroying thing in the world. And it's one of the things that's probably linking into what's causing depression amongst people, because you're forcing yourself into a schedule of doing something. I'll give you a very simple example. It's all about frequency and content, how often you're putting something out, and how good that and we all know it's a lie. We all know it's a lie. The Instagram influencers, terrible word, that you're seeing out there, a woman on a beach saying loving life, a guy in the gym showing, it's all fucking lies. It's all lies. It's all set up photos, and it's all lies. And in order to play the game, we're forced to do this thing. Be funny at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, because that's when you're scheduled to put your post out. I'm not funny then. I'm funny. I'm not really funny ever. But it's these kind of, it's all fake. It's all lies, and you have to almost face that. I'll give you something very simple I do. I post on Instagram, and I post a picture of an album that I'm genuinely listening to. Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera was 22, you feel old now, Ned. It was 22 years old yesterday, 22, my friend. And I was listening to that because it's an album that I really like. So I put the cover up, and it's without a question, it's without anything, it just says, now listening, Vulgar Display of Power, Pantera, tags and all that type of thing. And I leave it, and this amazing thing happens. And people start commenting on it. I like track 3. What do you think of Vinnie Paul passing away? And they asked me all these questions. I didn't ask. Same thing when it comes on Facebook. I'll put up a picture of something without any tagline or anything like that. People just are drawn in to having conversations. That's a great thing. That's a great thing, because people are told now that your opinion doesn't count, that there's so many opinions that they don't count anymore, that what you say about something doesn't really mean anything. And it's quite the reverse. It means everything, because it means everything to you. So using each platform, you've got to kind of find, it's like having a toolbox. It's probably the best analogy I can give, a terrible one, but the best one I can give you. It's like having a toolbox, and you go, okay, well, today I need this and this. Okay, let's go do that. Okay, so tomorrow I'll need this and this. So if I want to do something visual, I'll lean to Instagram. If I want to do something where I want to kind of work back and forth with someone and get a rapport with some of the listeners, I'll do it on Facebook. It's easy to talk back and forth. And that's just an extension of how I do my life. I try to avoid social media now, because ultimately these things are toxic. But, as I keep saying, to dance with the devil, you've got to kind of sometimes know how many songs you can get out before he's going to want your soul, you know? And that's what social media is. Picking the one tool that works for you, but not making sure that it becomes a crutch that you're always leaning on all the time. Because then what happens is, and this is the death sentence, is you become beholden to it. So that girl that puts her stuff up on Instagram, she has 2 or 3 days where she doesn't feel that she's the person she should be. She doesn't feel pretty. She doesn't feel wanted. And she's forced to put up a fake picture to keep that illusion up. And pretty much that becomes the end game. And that's why it's so important that we don't judge people by their social media, and we use it as a small dip of what they're about, because that's all it is. It doesn't represent who they are. And allow people to be open and honest on social media about things and talk about things. So recently, the work I've been doing with mental illness has really kind of lent into that, in so much as this is all bullshit, this is all podcasts, and we're beholden to it. We're the slaves, we used to be the master, you know. And so it's all about kind of just getting enough and then stepping back from it. And that's tough, because only you're going to be able to decide that when you're involved. So, is it running my life, or am I running it? Is it got out of control here? Because if it's a job now, it's going to be horrible. My friend linked me to a thing which was influencers in the wild, and it was people taking pictures of people who were trying to orchestrate pictures of themselves, or a boyfriend taking a picture of a girlfriend, and he was trying to angle it and stuff, and all this, and it's horrible. It's horrible. It is both the worst of us and the best of us, and the only thing that decides if that's going to be the case is you everybody does, and everybody should do it. It's not something that should be frowned upon. You should embrace it, but it's like anything, you know. It's like eating too much food and getting fat. You know what I mean? It's simple. It's just something that's similar. Too much social media is bad sometimes. You know, especially you want to see the schedules. Sometimes on when I was looking in how to promote the show and what kind of things to focus on, people have put up calendars of like Tuesday you should do 2 Pinterest posts between this time and this time, because the algorithm says that's when you've got to do that. And when you actually set it up, you're like, oh my God, when am I actually meant to get my life in between here? You know, because all my best stories don't start with I was on Facebook once. They don't start that. They start with I'm on an autobahn in Germany with an 8-hour trip, and the promoter just paid me a pizza and I've got a 22-person tour. That was the story. How that story started. It didn't start with I was on Instagram the other day, and I put it doesn't. No, stories start with that. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's going to get worse and better as it kind of splits. You know what I mean? It's because it's going to show the best and the worst of us, and if you're that person who's vacuous and kind of only cares about those rudimentary things, it's going to show up. It'll show you out, like, you know, very quickly. You know, because you get a real magnifying glass to just come over you, you know, as it does. I'm now into the situation where I had a guy saying, "Why you support metal? Why don't you come to my show?" He just called me out. You got to be ready for that. Like, got to ready people to go, okay, well, you say this on your podcast and you believe this to be true. Now you've got to stop talking and stop being a keyboard warrior and actually get on the field and play. Like, and that's hard. When Ned and Peter Guy from Get Into This go, you really like metal, you talk about music a lot, can you be involved in the Liverpool Music Conference? Right, okay, doing what? You're going to be the host of it. What? You're going to be doing the host of it. So now you can't hide, because you're out there, you know what I mean? You can't hide, and people are going to ask you questions. And it got rough near the end of it, didn't it? People were like, I don't agree, and it got rough. And but it was fun. It was fun. So you very quickly you have to answer for everything you do. Don't think that you don't have to do that when you post a picture or you write comments. If you wouldn't do it in real life, you shouldn't do it on social media.
I was going to say, a lot of this sort of chimes into what you were saying at the beginning about you had a series of people that you wanted to, in a sense, borrow from.
Yeah, completely.
But it sounds like over time you've sort of developed your own practice as you've moved through. Did you start out doing the podcast with this sort of schematic way, I'm going to do this?
That's exactly it.
And then how has that changed as you've started doing it?
Yeah, so I totally did that. So one of the first things in doing anything, you want to lose weight, you want to paint, you want to do a podcast, you want to start a band, you've just got to start. Christ, you've just got to start. Get off your arse and fucking do it and just start. And that's a scary thing to do. I want to lose weight, I want to go to the gym. Just fucking go then. Just stop with the barriers. And the biggest thing is I don't know how to do it. And we live in a time where that device there has all of human knowledge on it. Stop looking at fucking pictures of cats and learn how to do it. I keyed into Google how to be a podcaster. I just typed it in. And there's a lot of shit. So you have to read. Okay, I've got to do some work here.
It's all of human knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fucking... So, and you start, and the first couple of shows I did with another gentleman were fucking awful, because we thought that every so often you had to have what they call a drop-in, where there's like a piece of music. And it was awful, and it was just kind of... I was learning to walk, one foot on the other. Okay, that didn't work. Oh, stumbled on that. Okay, keep it. And then pretty soon, and now I'm moving, I've got a bit of momentum. But it was all just listening to where the waves break and kind of going, okay, well, like I said to you before, so one of the things I got, when I was recording the show, it's often recorded in the bowels of some crappy venue with like bands sound checking and people arguing and stuff, and that comes over, it bleeds over onto the podcast. And I was like, oh God, I want it to sound like Joe Rogan's one, where it's beautifully recorded, you can hear this soliloquy of everybody's voice and everything. And people were like, we love when we can hear a band sound checking in the back, because it's real. There's no faking, you're not Skyping it and you're talking to someone on the other end of the planet. It's a real thing. We all love behind the scenes, don't we? We all love, yeah, that film's great, but in the director's commentary, he said he hated him. That's what you wanted. You want the dirt. I like the making of the Black Album. I like hearing behind the scenes of how something was done. And that's kind of what I try and show, is to kind of go, okay, this is kind of the behind the scenes. But I only found that by starting doing something very kind of rudimentary and very kind of, everybody was doing it. It took a while of shouting before I found my voice, if that makes sense, and it was only then that I kind of gone, okay, I think starting to find out what I am and who I am as a person. And that's the best thing why any of you should do that. It's the same reason why any of you should write a book. Is this whole thing is just trying to find out who you are. Trying to find out as a person, what do you believe in, what do you care about, what is the most important thing in your life, what is the thing that you want to change, what is the thing you want to become. You've got to start finding this out, because the average life expectancy is 78. Retirement age is about 60, gives you about 11 years of sitting playing bowls. Fucking no, we're not having that. So you've got to kind of find out what you want to do, what do you care about, and that's what I found out. What I care about is like greasy haired men punching each other in a small venue. The most,
Well, I'm just gonna, before I forget this question,
okay.
Given what you were saying about this idea that the show is sort of has evolved and it's become something that doesn't have the sort of constraints that maybe, say...
I don't have a producer.
Yeah, so it's not broadcast radio, which obviously has lots of constraints. Do you impose any constraints on this at all? You know, is maybe around time limits, or is there anything that you
I think a lot of it's happened quite organically. So I now have like versions of the show to different things. So I have one that says the Spoken Metal Show Live, where it's like this will be a live show. Then I have a Spoken Metal Show a week where I spend a week listening to an album. I have one that's an interview, and they've kind of just organically formed in that. So an interview will be, like I said, I like the Joe Rogan 3 hours, so I go as long as we can. We go. We did ours, and it was like an hour and a half or some shit. Yeah. We could have done 2-3 hours easily. We probably will do. And then you get the ones where it's like reviewing an album. It probably needs to be 20 minutes. You find where the limit is of what you're speaking, but I'm a big fan of when I sit down with someone saying, there's no editing, I'm not cutting together, so I don't cut out a section and remove it and so I can put it later on as something else and try and edit the flow of it. I hate that. I remove that as well. Try and remove everything that is a barrier for me and that person having an honest conversation. And because of that, it's got its own fault. There's no adverts. I'm not beholden to anybody, so there's no halfway through it doesn't do an advert for tyres or something or an insurance. It doesn't do that. And what really freaks me out is when you listen to Joe Rogan, and at the beginning of his podcasts, he does this whole thing about Dollar Shave Club and all that, and I'm like, fucking, the minute he starts mentioning that, it just reduces the weight of what he's talking about, So all that goes out. But what happens if, I don't know, Metal Hammer come to me and they go, right, we love you talking about metal and stuff like that. We're going to pay you. It's unpaid. We're going to pay you so you can do this all the time. But you have to say at the beginning of the episode, get your subscriptions to Metal Hammer. What do I do? Do I take that knowing that I'm going to get an instant audience of like 1 million people or whatever?
Handpaid.
Where's its integrity? So fortunately, coming from the band type of mentality, you've always got to be aware of the perception of what you're doing and how much validity it is in terms of we've all seen Motorhead t-shirts in Primark. That gets brought up a lot. That dissolves some of Motorhead's creativity and kind of their trust. My man here with the Nine Inch Nails is such a good example of that. So Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails have never made a bad record. They just haven't. They've been on the right side of knowing who they are and what they do, and I'm sure as hell that they've moved away from going, okay, you could do this tour, it's sponsored by Pepsi, but it'll have to be 9 Inch Nails sponsored by Pepsi. I'm sure that the minute that you would lose a whole glut of the fans who bought into that. For the reason they bought into it was for that level of honesty that they wanted, and you can't fuck with that. The minute you start messing with that and start cutting away at it, your integrity, it's gone. It's gone. The genie's out the bottle. It's you're never getting that back. So I would hope, and certainly the messages that I get are people say, I listen to your podcast because I believe that what you're saying is unfiltered and true. They may not agree with it. They may be offended by it, but they believe that there's no one pulling the strings behind here, and there's no other kind of opinion other than my own. And it will always be a positive opinion from me because, like I was saying off air, if you will, I'm only interested in creativity and positivity. There is a glut of people who will do any kind of show and negatively run down bands, albums, the scene, whatever. That's a road that's full of people. That's not for me. I'm this other road of creating something and helping other people out, because there's no one on that road and you can walk it completely free, unmolested. It's brilliant, and do that. You have to get ready for some people to have a go, but it's it's an open road, creativity wise. It's massively open and should be, I run all over that road, up and down it, so no negativity is absolutely key. People love that. I always say in my podcast all the time, you should go and do your own one and make your own podcast about whatever you like to talk about. I'll, as a sidebar, I'll tell you this small story. So I was doing the podcast, I've been doing about 45 episodes, and there was I got asked to be the compere, which is someone who comes out and kind of gets the crowd going and kind of leads the show for the metal to the masses. It's an annual event where bands all compete to win a slot on Bloodstock, which is a huge metal festival. And I've been doing this particular show, and at various points you come outside because it gets very hot, and I come outside, and the girl approached me, and she was saying that she listened to the show, she never comments, shares the show or anything like that, but she listened to the show, and she had enormous problems with coming to a show because she thought that metal shows or music shows of any kind were a toxic environment for a woman to be part of, that someone would inappropriately touch her, there would be inappropriate sort of things happening from unwanted attention from men, that if you went, she was quite depressed about things, and she would feel alone and vulnerable, and she would cut herself. And she said that listening to some of the things I said, she came to the show on her own and just wanted, in her words, she just wanted me to know that there's some people listening out there that don't always comment and write stuff on there, and that she wanted to learn how to be a folk singer. That was her thing. She was like the metal, but she wanted to learn how to be a folk singer, and she was starting to take vocal lessons and start to do that. And that really gave me a moment of pause, that I'm laughing and joking now and telling funny stories and whatever, but you're not just playing for you, you're playing for that one person that's listening to you, that today for them was very difficult for them when they got up. They didn't know if they could go outside, they didn't know if they were the person they wanted to be, they didn't know what they were doing with their lives, and you said to them, you can do whatever you want us to do and I've got you, and if you want to come to a show, we'll stand and watch a band and talk nonsense, or I'll just do all the talking and you just stand there, we'll have a beer, we'll watch some music, and you're fine, and everything's fine. And they needed to hear that, you know, and it gave me a big moment of pause where it was like, now you've got a responsibility to talk to people about that and talk about it openly, and do that type of thing. And it gave me an incredible amount of weight to the next shows I was doing, and I really thought about what I was saying, and it instigated a thing of every live show I go to, I tell people I'm going to them that they should come to them too, and if you're male, female, whatever, and you don't like, you know, so you're socially awkward, come with me and we'll go to a show together. You know, I've got your back, and I'm there to kind of support you, because it's a tough, life's really fucking hard, really hard, and if we can kind of get together under the umbrella of music, whatever music you might listen to, that's really important, and that shaped how I was doing everything after that. Christ, this is depressing, isn't it? you can't throw a couple of gags in there. So I'm naked in Austria now. I don't know, I should ask any questions you want to ask, anything at all. The girl at the back's just like, I don't understand metal at all. He's mentioned 5 bands, I have no idea. That's okay too.
I have another question.
You're allowed, yeah?
Kind of like social media.
Okay.
Like social media, like algorithms, like especially YouTube, like
yes.
make it increasingly hard for like smaller creators to basically be seen by more people.
Right.
And like the bigger creators tend to be the ones who are pushed forward, and like, with how disingenuous you are, like you can't trust anything they say because they're paid to have certain opinions and they have to be brand friendly to make money.
Yeah.
How does that affect you, and how, like, what are your opinions like? Would you ever, like, what? I don't know, like, what's your opinion on stuff like that? There's like podcasting.
It's fair. Yeah, it's like there's people like there's that kid, and he opens toys, doesn't he? And didn't he earn like $20 million last year?
Ryan's Toys.
There you go. So shout out to Ryan's Toys. As long as he's there.
Money on YouTube,
he's like makes about $20 million. You know what I mean? And you know what? Fair play to the kid.
I think it was recently demonetised though, wasn't it?
Really? Yeah, it's a bit demonetised.
I think because it was based. I'm not sure how true this is, but I remember it was basically an advertisement to children, which is obviously illegal.
Well, all the toys, all the toy companies were like, if we give you this toy, well, you get it to what we know. Look, the thing is we all know it goes on. We all know that famous person wearing those famous pair of shoes he's got them for free. We're not idiots, but somehow we buy into it. Yeah. So you've got these huge people who do have 32 million people watch their thing, and it's like I've got 12 people watching mine. Doesn't devalue it, and that's the biggest barrier. If you want to do your own podcast, people are like, well, I've only got 12 followers, so I'm not worth anything. You're fucking what? Because then you start going, I've only got 1,200 followers, I'm not worth anything. And then you go, I've only got 1.2 million followers, so my life's not really complete. What are you thinking? What are you thinking if that's the mentality? And that's what happens, is it becomes like a game you cannot win. It's like, I'm sure some of the celebrities who completely live on social media, and you can see them doing stunts to kind of increase the viewership and stuff like that. And what they're doing each time to do that is appeal to the base level of everything. If I can show skin, if you're male or female, doesn't matter, but if I show some skin, that's going to get more people there. If I say something outrageous. The problem is, if you always apply yourself to the base level, you're lowering the bar. You're just lowering the bar for all of us. And it just becomes a point, it comes like a freak show, it comes like Barnum's Circus, where it's like, I just want to see something that's shocking now. And then you go into the swamp of the internet then. What about, we play a different game. So I don't know how many people follow me. I genuinely don't. I don't look at it, because what difference does it make? We might put this podcast out and 36,000 people listen to it. And so what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything. 3.6 million people listen to it. It's all numbers. I more care about that girl sitting there listening at home who gets by with this. I care about the guy that's listening to it at work, who's having a shitty day at work, who listens to my nonsense and laughs and doesn't realise he's been doing 4 hours of fitting a carpet somewhere or roofing or doing real work. That wins for me. Because otherwise, the minute you get to this huge audience, you're beholden to them then, aren't you? You kind of almost... And then you get this ridiculous situation where people are kind of doing things now because their audience says so, and then you're like, hold on, who's wagging the dog here, So it's tough. It's a fine line, and every so often, you get the Logan Pauls who overstep it, who do stupid shit and make people look silly, and all his credibility of anything interesting he was saying, and he was empowering kids. This guy's a motherfucker. I don't know him, but certainly the stuff that I've seen is horrible. Filming dead people and stuff like that and all the rest of it. But at one point, he was making people go, you know what? I don't have to fucking have a 9-to-5 job anymore. I can go out and see the world. I can be whatever I want to be. That's fucking great. You know what I mean? And we're only getting to see one slight shade of this person. But because of, this whole thing about now that you can get, what if you say something offensive? We haven't talked about that yet. What if I say something offensive and cancel culture and completely remove yourself? It's like, oh my God, that you can say something and then people can say you can't say anything else again. Yeah. Fucking hell. How are we supposed to move? God bless you, having your hand up. I love that. Go on.
Just did you ever, before you knew exactly this is what I want to talk about, and you found this is, what you want to talk about at the very start, when you were just umming and ahhing, did you ever find yourself, not as far as envying, but being like, why can they do that? And I want to be like that. Yeah. So I thought, fuck that, that's what I want to do.
Completely. It's like, I want people to listen to this show, and I want people to think, that's absolutely fucking shit. I can do so much better. I hope you can. All I ever ask is I'm a guest on one of the shows. That's all I ever ask. But I want, Kevin Smith says it all the time. It's like a backhanded compliment. Like when someone comes to me and go, you're the reason I started filming. And he's like, great. But what you're saying is that I saw Clerks, saw how shitty it was put together and how it was fucking rough around the edges. And if you can do that, well, fuck, I can do that. Because here's the gaff. I am privileged to know millionaires. I'm privileged to know and be friends with what we would know as rock stars. Very famous people. I don't want to name drop. I do. It's not me trying to big myself up. It's to explain it. I know famous people. They're just as fucking unhappy as the rest of us. They're just fucking people with famous jobs. That's all they're doing. And the level of things changes. That's all. They're still unhappy. So it didn't worry me in any way about those steps to get to where I need to be. If you know what I mean. I didn't kind of use that to kind of as a fear thing. I did think, fuck, if they can do it, I can do it, because I'm just like them. And I'm a huge fan of demystifying. A lot of time I talk about backstage and crewing, and when I talk to someone, I prefer to talk to the drum tech or the tour manager rather than the famous people, because I find there's more interesting stuff there. And so I'm always about demystifying that it's actually not that lifestyle. The 40 minutes that you play in arena is great, or whatever it is, but the 12 hours off stage is shit. It's really fucking. I'm privileged to know rock stars and famous people, and I'm here to tell you they're just like all of us. They just have a special job for an hour and a half, and that's it. And all the problems that we have about how we look, how we feel, what we think what we think our life's going, they have them too. Everybody's the same. They really are. And so, yeah, you've got something that you care about, that you want to talk about. You go ahead and fucking do it, and there's no one who's above or below you in any way, shape or form. It's your opinion, and it's incredibly valid. So yeah, anybody who thinks that they can't do it, it's another barrier. Let's fucking kick that barrier down. We don't want that. Whatever barriers you've got today, by the way, bring them up and I'll kill them for you quite happily. There's nothing in your way. You can do whatever the fuck you want. And you can talk about whatever you want. If you want to do a podcast, you want to form a band, go and fucking do it. And while you're doing that, by the way, there's going to be a ton of people who say you can't do that. They're always the people that don't do anything. You're going to get that. So I'm allowed to drop, I think I've got 3 names I'm allowed to drop ever, and then it's too much, isn't it? So one of my friends is a gentleman called Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is a very famous wrestler. He's a very famous musician. He plays in a band called Fosse, and I'm privileged to know him and call him a friend. And one of the things he told me was that the people who say you can't do something are never the people doing anything. They're just not. When I said I was doing a podcast, how many people said, "What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing that for?" They asked me, "What are you doing it for?" Not why are you doing that. What are you doing that for? And you're like, I don't know. I want to do it. Oh, well, it's not going to work, is it? And every single one of these people that will tell you can't do something, and every one of these people who will give you loads of the barriers, none of them have achieved fucking anything. And what's interesting is the reverse is true. That everybody that says, fuck them, do what you want, you can do anything you want, talk about whatever you want, they're the people who are really successful. Hold on, isn't there some causality here? Yes, there fucking is. It's obvious. So that negativity and all that bullshit is useless. It's useless to you. It's not going to get where you need to be. Like I said, I know some famous people, and the one true thing that runs through it is they've gone against when people say they can't do it. Chris Jericho's quite a short guy, so in wrestling, there's not really room for a short guy. He's not potentially quite big. He's not big, so he kind of was almost fighting against it from day one. He's now one of the most famous wrestlers at the moment on the planet. He was told he couldn't be in a band, couldn't be in a rock and roll band. Now he's like, I don't know, 7 albums deep. He tours regularly. He's got his own cruise, which he was told he couldn't do, by the way. His own cruise where he has all the fans on, has loads of bands playing and all that. He's just getting on with it while other people are saying you can't do it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to keep going, doing what I'm doing. And there's going to be loads of people who say, you can't do that. Why are you doing that for? It's not ridiculous. Maybe it is. But I'm keep going to do it. Give or take, it doesn't matter to me. Does that any help? Does that even answer your question?
Yeah.
I went off on a massive tangent, didn't I?
Do you think it helped, not growing up with social media? Right? So, say when we're growing up and going for it now, it's like, how am I going to even compare to all these huge businesses that have happened overnight when they haven't really happened overnight? But do you think because you've seen it before all that, it makes it easier for you to be like, yeah, you absolutely can? Because
I've seen what it looked like before.
Yeah.
But what's your name?
Kim,
you've got something that the big businesses haven't got. They ain't got you. You've got you. Or all the things that make up you, all the things that you say, all the things that you believe in. They can't do. The companies and large-scale things are desperate to get a human connection with everybody. They're desperate to make you think that they're real and they're part of everything. They're desperate for that. And all the time, companies want to be seen as friendly. And they're very people oriented. They're fucking not. It's like Amazon having those people tours, saying we're not the devil, and it's like, all right, okay, you're not, because you're like, well, fucking course you are. You know what I mean? They haven't got you. You are an important. So your personality, who makes you, what you want to talk about, is important, and we're told constantly that it isn't. That the individual's voice isn't important. It fucking is. 100%. So Are you thinking about doing a podcast? Do you do a podcast?
No, but like I enjoy them. But I started like writing a blog last year, and then I stopped because I was like, I don't know what to write on this. And then it was a case of, well, what's everyone else writing? And I didn't want to think like that because I think the first post I ever...
What were the blogs about?
Anything.
Just like how your day went, like a diary?
We didn't have like a central point, but then I was like, who cares about my day? Do you know what I mean? Like, not like...
What have I said to you? What have I said to you this morning? I ummed and ahed about cancelling this today. Because I was like, no one wants to hear my fucking nonsense. No one cares. You know, why would you listen to me talk to people half my age about stuff that I have no idea I'm talking about? Do you know what, fuck it, I'll just say to Ned I've got something on, and Ned will believe me, this will just be something else. And then I was listening to Henry Rollins, huge fan of Henry Rollins, and he was just like, get off the couch, get to the gym type of thing, and he was just like, and I was like, you know what, Henry, then away I go. Your blog was being read by a girl, maybe half your age, and she was like, this person's getting me through today. This person is like me, has the same things as me, and the same beliefs as me, and I can do this. I can get to work. I can do the job. I can finish with my boyfriend in this abusive relationship. I can write a book. I can paint a picture. I can go for a walk because of what you wrote. You're not just playing for you. You're playing for other people as well. So you're like, what should I write? Write whatever the fuck you want, but keep writing. Don't stop. Keep writing. Blogs are fascinating to me. They're fantastic. I think I'd like to do a blog, but I can't write as eloquently as Ned. I'm a lot of it's like swearing, but I can't do that. But I think they're fascinating when I read them. I love autobiographies. I love sorts of things like that. You should go back to that blog, and you should revisit that, because there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be times when you'll write pap, stuff that you don't think means anything, but that's all part of you. The whole course of the 24 hours of you today won't all be interesting, won't all be exciting. No one's life is like that. But you can curate the bits that are, put that blog together and keep writing it. You've got to keep doing it though. The barrier was, I don't think anybody's listening. How do you know? How do you know what effects it is? But it might be. When me and Metallica start off, 4 guys, streetwear, playing in a garage, they must have launched 1 billion garage bands. You know what I mean? They probably didn't know that when they were starting. I certainly didn't. When they were starting, they were doing like, let's think about this. You know, Tarantino's writing Pulp Fiction in a video store somewhere in Burbank. He doesn't think that he's going to suddenly influence an entire decade of directors. You don't know when it's going to start, how far back it's going to start. That's why you start. You know, you should go back and do that blog. Anybody who's got a barrier to doing that type of thing, I'll destroy that barrier. I take great joy in doing that, in destroying those, because it's all bollocks, it's all nonsense. You should keep writing. And then start doing weird shit with it. Just go, okay, what if I do a video? What if I do a podcast? You don't have to do one a week or one every month. You should do one and then never do it again. You should do it. What did you just talk about your day then and stuff? Or?
Well, no, I did one. I started it last year, and it was... the first post was just, do you know what, I just thought, why not? So I started it just because I enjoyed writing, and then after that I got into like fitness, and I did a few fitness ones, and then I went on holiday, so I wrote about my holiday. But then I came, because you can obviously see statistics of who goes on it and where they're from and stuff like that, and it'd be like, okay, Liverpool people who obviously I know have gone, oh yeah, I'll click on that and have a nosy at it. But then I was like, are they just looking at that because they think, what's she doing? Like, why is she jumping on and creating a blog? And then some people, you get people from random countries, like, I don't know, America or Japan, and you think, how on earth have they found that? Like, and that kind of eggs you on a bit, but then if you get stuck somewhere thinking, oh, I don't know what to write next, or... Like you said before, you start thinking, what do people want? Like, not what do I want
you start, the beast starts when you're like,
So I haven't touched it for a while, but it's just because I thought, well, what's everyone else writing? And I lost like what I actually wanted to write. If you know what I mean.
When you're driving in a car, it's important to look ahead. You don't really look, every so often you'll check the rear view, you'll look in the sides, but most of the time you're driving ahead. That's how you should play that. You should be like, you know what, so I'm just going to look over, okay, someone's writing about that, that's cool. Okay, in the rear view, I had a couple of likes for that post, that's fine, okay. You should just keep driving. You have your, for the listeners now who can't see this, you have your nose, you have a ring in your nose. That's a podcast in an episode. I don't know anything about nose ring, but I'd listen to that. You know what I mean? You talk about fitness. Well, the best thing about, and the worst thing about fitness, there's a billion fitness videos, a billion blogs there, how to do your hair, how to do your makeup, how to get abs, how to do crunches. There's a billion of them. But I would be more invested in yours if I knew you were more about you as a person. Because otherwise you're just a faceless person on a screen. But if I know that you're doing this or you're doing that, that helps me understand what you're doing, and I buy in more. Like Joe Rogan, as we alluded to earlier on, is a fantastic example of that. I don't agree with everything he says. Don't agree with quite a few things, but I understand him because I understand because I've seen so many hours of sitting with him, listening to what he's got to say. I think I have a good grasp of him. Like, I don't agree with everything that my mates say, but they're still my mates, you know. And it all comes from knowing about you and putting it out there. There's a danger, you know. Sometimes you can put too much of yourself out there, photograph-wise and opinion-wise. But most of the time, the people's opinions you care about the most are the people who you respect the most, and you only respect them the most because of the things that they say and do. So, you know, there's a responsibility to that, and it's a responsibility to be true to yourself. But you know as well as I do, because the way you've been nodding your head and stuff, with the reason you give that up is because you weren't getting enough people looking at you. And it's bollocks. It just is. Because then we get into that, only 12 people look at me, 12,000, 1.2 million, doesn't matter. And what you'll find is, if you keep doing it, people, how impressive is it? Joe Rogan puts a thing up, episode 2,429, it's a fucking figure that is. That's it. You're like, fuck, this guy's been going for 2,500 episodes. He must be fucking saying something of value. He must be. When a band's been touring for 30 years, they can't do that if they're shit. It just doesn't happen, you know. So you've got to respect someone who's been doing it that long. You've just got to keep doing it. If you keep doing it, it gives you a certain amount of credibility. And then it comes down to what you're writing about, you know. I don't know if that helps. Probably doesn't. It's like, fuck this guy. Write about me tonight. This fucking bald guy comes in, he's just shouting at us, talking about fitness videos, doesn't look as though he's lifted a fucking dumbbell in his life, yeah.
There's an interesting link, actually, you know, what Kim's talking about in relation to blogs and podcasting. It strikes me that what that link is intimacy, which is something that Richard Berry talks about in the reading for this week. You know, in a way that what podcasting allows is kind of an intimate relationship between the podcaster and the listener, because as you were saying, quite often people listen to podcasts on their own, either on journeys or through headphones, and it's quite an intimate relationship. And I think also blogs, they come across as intimate because they come across as they're about somebody's personal experience.
It's two sort of forced intimacies. So imagine if I did this whole thing now, but I was sitting right next to you and talking in your ear. I was sitting right next to you talking to your ear. That's creepy, but it's there. Yeah. You're putting a set of earphones in. You're doing that. You're in a bedroom putting your makeup on, and it's just you and them. There's an intimacy to that. But in the same way, there's that with a book. We've all done that, where you open a book and you start reading, and your mind starts creating the pictures of what's in the book, and you start visualising it, and then before long you look up and you've missed your stop on the train station. You know, we've all been that intimacy, and that's when it's like you think they're talking to you. I thought Bon Scott on the album Highway to Hell, AC/DC's Highway to Hell, at the end of Night Prowler, there's a backwards reversed message, or so I thought, and I would listen to this as a kid, a teenager, and I'd listen to the record, and at the end was that backwards message, you know, the devil's thing that you'd always hear, and it was Shazbud, Nanu Nanu. And I thought, wow, that's a secret message, he's talking to me, it's the devil's music I must have heard. And then much later on, I realised that he was just quoting Mork from Mork and Mindy. But the point was, I thought he was talking to me. When I heard a record, I thought they were talking to me, and in many ways they were trying to talk to me. So when I when I hear someone doing a podcast and it's like Kevin Smith and he's like, you can fucking do it and start the thing and do the thing, I'm thinking he's talking to me. He means me because I'm listening now. He means me, he must mean me. There's a classic thing that you see at a metal concert, any concert, where John Bon Jovi will point at someone in the crowd. He's not pointing at fucking you, but you think he is. He's like, that fucking guy there, there's 30,000 people. Like, he fucking means me. And John Bon Jovi pointed to me last night. To that guy, that's everything to him, that guy. It's like, I went to a Bon Jovi concert today, he fucking singled me out. Just give a fuck. He forgot about you the minute he withdrew his hand, you know. But he thinks that it's about him. And podcasts and any kind of media that you listen to, audio recordings, what are they called? These like the things of the book where someone reads them, whatever that's called. Audiobooks. They're a good example where someone's narrating them. Like I listened to one by Stephen. What was it? It was like one of the Harry Potter ones, and it transports you to these places, and that's incredibly powerful. People, like since the beginning of time, when a group of cave people sat round a fire and someone told a story, that's fantastic. You know, people want to hear that, like they want to hear those things. And tonight, I've got some friends working a show down there for Terrorvision. I'm going to drop them down to one now. Terrorvision down there. I'm more excited about going to that show, not for the music, I'm sure Terrorvision would be great, but the crew, and sitting there and going, you remember that time when we did this? Oh, you remember when so-and said, everybody wants to hear those stories. So that intimacy that you get when you hear a story, you hear something that you think is with you, and it's in your ears and you can't get away from it, you're on a train, you're walking or whatever, that's incredibly powerful, that is, especially if someone's saying something motivational, in a dangerous sense as well. You know, someone saying something racist or homophobic or from a religious standpoint, that can be incredibly powerful. That can form cults, that can do something, and that's why it's a weapon that you've got to be careful how you wield. So yes, the intimacy of it changes how you say stuff, changes how you speak. I speak quite loudly, so I work that into kind of how I do the levels on, because I know someone's going to have it in their ears. But also it's power. One of the, like, here's a good analogy for you. So if anybody's familiar with wrestling, huge wrestling fan, anybody's familiar with wrestling, there's a wrestler called Jake Roberts, and you do things like promos where someone talks on a microphone and goes, come to the Civica Theatre on the 22nd of April, where I'm going to be fighting so-and-so in a steel cage, and that's meant to sell the show. And everybody does the same thing. They all talk loud. I'm going to crush him, blah, 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 flex muscles, just spit water, whatever the fuck. Jake Roberts comes along with a microphone and he talks quietly. What? You have to lean in. What's he saying? And I'm going to do that. And he's quoting Bible scriptures and stuff and real stuff like that. And he's like, and he does this wonderful thing on this one particular promo where he says to the camera guy, just keep the camera rolling no matter what happens and I'll do this promo. And he starts mouthing the words, but nothing's coming out. And then says, you know, I've just got you to lean in or turn your volume up on your television, and if I can get you to do that, I can get you to do anything, I have power over you. Just kind of messing with the medium. And the minute I sort of kind of saw him doing things like that, I was like, how you use your voice and how you kind of speak is incredibly powerful tool, and how you let that go out in the world is incredibly powerful. I'm always a big fan of the guy that's shouting and talking a lot, very rarely has anything to say. And the guy who's talking quite quietly, he's probably the guy you'll be listening to, like, you know. That's how I perceive the intimacy of a show, like, anyway. Does that make sense? Maybe. A little bit. I don't know. I will ask away, like, I talk too much, like, you. I know I do a podcast, y'all, because it's like, I'm talking anyways, fuck it, just record it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't mind.
Given my interest in metal, and the metal scene here in the city, I wondered, you mentioned before about this kind of, what you've begun to realise is a responsibility that comes with this, that you talked about, you know, the girl who you met at the gig and so on.
Yes.
Have you felt an increased responsibility to the local scene as this show has progressed?
Yeah. So the original plan for the show was I talk about music that I like. That was it. That was the plan. And then you sort of, as it goes on, people go, he must know what he's talking about. I don't. He must know what he's talking about. He speaks very erudite about a particular topic. So then people go, let me send you this album and you tell me what you think. Your opinion gets some validity. And then you get asked to host the Metal to the Masses, where people are really battle dancers to compete for a really big slot, and then you get asked your opinion. What do you think about this? And you have to start voicing it. And then something weird happens, and they start closing venues, non-metal or whatever, venues around Liverpool, and they close people, and this is people's livelihoods. And then people go, there's nowhere to play anymore, that the arts is being stripped and taken away from Liverpool, and its whole identity of Liverpool is being, this beautiful venue has been destroyed and replaced with student accommodation. No offence. It's replaced with student accommodation, and you're like, fuck, I met my wife there. And and where are these creative spaces? And we talked about this in the podcast with Ned, that two of the ways you can escape poverty and disadvantagedness, if you will, if that's even a word, is sport and music. They're the ways you got out. And it was either you become a really good football player and you went and tried out for Liverpool and you made it, or you went in a band and did that. And because they were avenues that you could get out, you didn't turn to crime, you didn't turn to drugs, you didn't turn to violence, because your life had meaning. You could do it if you worked hard, if you believed in it, you could do it. You see Stormzy comes from a crime background and a gang-based culture background, spitting a message of positivity, and you're like, now a kid on the street doesn't have to deal drugs. He can use his laptop and his things to kind of put his album out there and change things, and you're like, oh shit, we're dealing with more important things than this. So you get an audience with UNESCO, who are like the governments basically, who give grants out and stuff, and you're sitting down with him and he's like, what do you think we should do to save the arts in Liverpool? None of my metal. And you're like, oh shit, now I've got to fucking have an opinion, because I'm one of those guys that's on the front line speaking up. How the hell did this happen? How did we get here? And that's I became incredible. And then people invite me to shows and go, there's a scene here and you're the only person talking about it. If you don't talk about it, no one's going to know about this scene. I can't just go, okay, close the laptop and I'll just get on with this. I've got to get on the field now. I've got to, so no one else is looking after it. Oh, shit, now I'm looking after it. And it's like, that's a heavy fucking burden. That's a heavy burden. When people are saying, we want to talk about mental health now. And you're like, I don't know anything about mental health. No, because people are saying that you're talking about mental health and social awkwardness and things like that. And now we want you to come and talk about that. And you're like, oh, shit. Because now it's serious. Now it's I was one of the people that were outside when they closed certain venues, saying we shouldn't close it. And I'm reminded, I watched a film a couple of nights back about that Mr. Rogers, the neighbour thing, Tom Hanks, and he was a guy that did this public access, well I don't know if it was public access, some television programme, and he was like, his whole gig was, it's welcome to my neighbourhood, not the Alice Cooper way, and he basically, it was this wholesome attitude of like acceptance of everything, and it went for years and years and years, and it was all about accepting people for the differences, accepting that type of thing, and it was fabulous. And they cut all the grants and the budgets for it, and this guy had to go and speak up in court to keep the show running, to keep people, and he had to go and speak and get on the front line and start to do that. And he delivered this wonderful thing that you should definitely check out online, where he explains the value of the arts and creativity and helping the young people become more creative, because that's the thing that's going to save us. Everything that we do is to lead us to a creative outcome, if you will. So what I mean by that is the money's all great and all that and this type of thing, but the only thing that really lasts in any kind of permanency is art and the creation of it. Music, the written word, the spoken word, any kind of performance. They're the things that are markers in human history that mean anything. that mean anything. You know, it's incredibly important that we sustain that. And when you get asked to get up and somewhere and speak about it, you know, you've got to treat that with the reverence it deserves. And I got asked to do that, and I have been asked to do that on numerous occasions, and be the voice of my scene. And that's fucking heavy, that is. Imagine right now you have to defend something that you believe in. Can you do it? You know, and so I made sure that I listened to everything that gets sent me, music, everything. I'm completely. I'll make a connection for you. So when I got to see John Peel get his fellowship, you know, the scroll that Ned's going to give me at the end of this, and he makes him a professor. I got to see John Peel do that. John Peel's a fucking legend in broadcasting and performance. I've seen posters of him with his name's above Jimi Hendrix on the fucking bill. You know, this guy is hugely important and a voracious appetite for music. And he got up and he talked about how he had no education, it's me, how he didn't think he spoke very well, me again, and how people were coming to him and asking him his opinion. He was one of the first guys to play Napalm Death on radios and stuff, and he was constantly looking for new music. He would go down the hall, knock on the door of the person there and going, what's new in Middle Eastern music, what's new in Bhangra music, because he just wanted to ingest all this information, because he knew how important it was. That I don't want someone not, you know, a couple of roads away from here going, do you only think I'm worthless? There's nothing going on in my life. In order to fit in with my group around me, I'm going to have to stab someone. In order to fit in with the group around me, I'm going to have to start dealing drugs. I've got no value. I've got nothing to say. No one's going to hear me or anything like that. That's not the case. It's not the case. And there is other pathways you can do. You don't have to have that life. You know, the urban decay, if you will, and the disadvantage that the hand you give is you can play it differently than you are, and that's why I'm hell bent on kind of supporting bands that are unsigned and in mentoring them in certain degrees and saying, listen, keep doing what you're doing. And then you get bands like Loathe are a band, you probably won't have heard of them, but they're a band, as they say, blowing up at the moment. They're a local band, and now they're kind of being, you know, they're going to win some awards soon. They're going to be really, really big. They're just like us. They started from just the same place, you know. And it's important that we always see that. We always see that that's something that you can do. It's always an option, because in this day and age, people are just too easy to take all your options off you. You can't do that. You can't play for Liverpool. You can't be an international rapper. You can't do that. You don't look that way. You don't sound that way. Think of like someone like Lewis Capaldi, completely against what we were told you should look like. He's not very good looking by his own admission, you know what I mean? Doesn't know how to play the media game very well, always socially awkward, looks like he's a bumbling fool sometimes by his own admission. But what cut through is because he's just telling the truth, he's singing the truth. The one thing that always cuts through everything is solid and honest talent. We all know when we see it. We all know. You might not be the metal guys, but you'll know when something is very good. It permeates genres, it permeates everything else, just cuts right the fuck way through, and you're like, that's really good. And everybody is capable of that, but we're told we're not. And I need to tell you, you fucking are. That was a long way around, wasn't it? But I got Lewis Capaldi into a metal show podcast, so fair enough, like. Oh.
Any more questions?
I just want to go home now. I like this guy.
I've always wondered, has podcast ever been available for sale, or have they always been free?
The monetization of podcasts. Yeah, so there's a whole area that constantly gets brought up, and that's the monetization and what they call patrons and stuff like that. So now, instead of me putting it out for free, you pay X amount of money, and there's a specialist one for you that I do. For me, it's tough, because I don't have a high value for what I say, despite me saying that you should have. So it's difficult to go, okay, well, I think this podcast is worth $9.99 a month. Well, what am I basing it on? And it's tough, and it's weird, because it breeds in this whole other subculture then, like now, of that money thing. It puts you in a different couple of games. So it puts you in a game with cam girls. Are you familiar, anybody with cam girls and the practice of OnlyFans? Are you familiar with this? It's okay if you don't want to put your hand up, that's okay. So, you have someone who can join OnlyFans, is a good example of it, post salacious pictures of themselves, male or female, and someone will buy a photo set or whatever, they could also request the person to do something, say something, wear something, whatever. And that's fine, you know, whatever you want to do, we're all consenting adults. But it does put you in that game. And I feel that that's not my set of my game. But I want to do this as a living, so I want to earn money. So how do you earn money legitimately and keep your integrity? It's fucking hard. That's hard, it's tough. So I'm going to be doing these live shows soon. Everybody's requested me to do this as a live thing where I interview someone and talk to someone in a live context. You imagine paying for this, you'd be fucking gutted, wouldn't you? Doing a live show. And so and they're like, well, how much do you want to do the tickets? We're thinking £15. And I'm like, what? They're like, we're thinking £15. I'm like, for a ticket? I'm thinking like, pay whatever you fucking want. And half of it's going to a charity, we'll go to Mind charity. But it's hard because some people see value if something's charged. Isn't that weird? That some people see value in if you charge something. So if I said to you, well, my podcast is only available for $4.99 a month, you'd be like, there must be some value to it then if it's $4.99 a month. It's fucking an illusion. It's an illusion. But some people feel like, it's like, how much was the ticket? Some people use it as a badge of honour. Ticket prices for these are normally £70. Oh, they all must be good then. The two aren't connected, but we make that connection. And I don't want to really get into that game, but I know it's a game I'm going to have to get into. Because it's like, it's a kind of, in order to kind of keep this going, my podcast costs the price of a SoundCloud subscription, which is like $9.99 a month. From that, it gives me an RSS feed. If you're not familiar with that is, it's a long stream of code that helps you go on iTunes and Spotify, and you can link all to it. So it basically costs me £10 a month to speak, if you will. So realistically, if I turn around and say I do a live show and it costs, and I charge you £5 a ticket, and there's 50 people show up, I've paid for that. That's not fair. That's not fair. But then the place needs to be paid for, the bouncer needs to be paid for, the person at the bar needs to be paid for, and it's tough. It's how to do that right. And that's something I'll probably wrestle with for the end of my days, because let's say this all goes badly and I don't do any more of these and I give it up and I jack it all in and that's that and this is nothing. Or suddenly it takes off and I do a live show and they're like, we're going to bulk you up from playing the Jacaranda Phase 1 to the O2, and I sell out the O2. It's downstairs. It's like 300 cap. It's not a big achievement. It's an achievement. And then they go, well, you recently did an interview with someone and that's blown up on the internet. You know, let's do another one. Let's do upstairs in the O2. Like 1,500 people. We can do upstairs. We can do upstairs. Oh, okay. And then before long, you're like, okay, what are we doing? We're doing the Echo Arena. What? So Dave Chappelle, comedian, starts like playing in front of 10 people, is now playing arenas. He's a comedian. Average ticket price $30, $40 or whatever. VIPs, all the things that you'd have the accoutrements of having a rock and roll show, he's doing. So it's tough. You've got to wrestle with kind of what you think it could be, and every so often you've just got to check yourself a little bit and go, is this fair? Is it right? Because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to tell you, yeah, you should. I've had a lot of people who can tell me I can monetize this, and I think it would take away from what I'm trying to do. But if anybody needs tickets when I play the Echo, I'll work it out. I'll put you on the meet and greet list. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Monetization's a weird one. That is the devil. That's the face of the devil. Monetization, and it's hard. But we live in a time now where, and rightly so, we're told that your day job doesn't need to be your day job anymore. So way back when in the 80s and when I was working, you came out of school, you did an apprenticeship, you did your job, then you did your job till you retired, you got an allotment and you died, and that was it. And people were like, well, hold on a second, this isn't fucking good. And that's Generation X. It was like, this is sucks, we can't do this now. And now the future, you are going, okay, well, hold on, I can write this blog that everybody subscribes to, and it's only $1 to subscribe to it, but I'm picking up, I don't know, $80 or £80 a week. I've got that coming in. I do this other thing. I act now as well. I'm trying to be an actor. Pull that in as well. And you have all these revenue streams, as they call them. And suddenly you don't have to work 9 to 5 as long as you're willing to dip into all these different things. You could be a blogger, a personal trainer. you know, and if you wanted to, you could be a cam girl and if you want to do that, you could do that. But you could have all these revenue streams. You don't have to have a 9-to-5 job anymore. That's exciting. That's not a negative, that's exciting. So, you know, monetisation isn't bad as long as you know what you're getting into, then it's fine, because then you know what you're getting out. But before long, you get to the point where you're charging £300 for a ticket, and you know you're getting a Justin Bieber meet and greet experience where you don't actually even meet Justin, you just get your photo taken next to a cardboard cutout of him, and then the gloves are off then. Because let's face it, I'm talking about Justin Bieber on a metal show, fucking ace. So Justin Bieber, when he originally started, was just this lad from Canada on a Toronto streets playing. He can sing, he can play, he can. These are facts. But look what's happened, because he's not young enough to understand who he is and what he is. All these yes men. I've worked with these people where yes men come in. Was that a good performance last night? You killed it. He didn't. Yeah, but the crowd were on side. He sounds really booing. Shut the fuck up. It was amazing. It didn't. The upper side didn't look as if he told. No, it was all fire hazards. That's why we didn't close up. You killed it. You're fucking amazing. I just put this thing out when I said this. No, don't worry. Everybody thinks that way. Yeah, but a lot of people said it was negative. Don't listen to them. Yes, you're amazing. Oh, okay. You think it's right to charge $30 for a ticket? Yeah, it is. Trust me, everybody's doing the same thing. You don't look at anything else, and then you suddenly this cash cow that's getting pushed through, and you're making all these bad decisions. People think that Justin Bieber's making his own decisions. He's not. He's just not. And and that's why we create these monsters, and they are monsters. The poor guy is we've wrecked him. We've wrecked all these people that we get at a young age, and we put them on television and we make them famous, and they've no idea how to deal with it. They've no learning, they've no kind of understanding of who they are, and they just get completely abused in every way. And that's one of the real downsides of this modern age. That we just set these people up to fall. We love the story of someone coming from nothing to be famous, but the minute we get famous, we're like, fuck you, let's cut them right down. And that is, every time you clickbait something, every time you read a newspaper, you are buying into that. So stop doing that. Stop doing that the fuck now, and start doing your own shit. I haven't got enough time to hate anything. I've got that much stuff I'm doing myself, and that's how you should be. If you've got time to hate like someone's page or write something bad on the internet, fucking hell, have a serious look at yourself and just do something for yourself. I haven't enough time to do that. To get to an argument with someone on the internet, fucking I haven't enough time to. I haven't enough time to. And why would you?
Do you think that there's a sort of downside to some of this, though? And what has come across clearly is just how passionate you are for podcasting and how passionate you are about your practice and your labour. But as you said, it is something that people need to earn money.
Yeah.
People, and what I think one of the sad things about the sort of creative labour that you're talking about a little bit is that you can do all of this stuff, but there isn't any security, there isn't any stability. It's people are doing lots and lots of things, revenue streams you mentioned, but as you mentioned, previous generations, they did have the day job, which was a stable kind of day job a lot of the time. But now I think with the generation of young people that I meet a lot as students and have met, I've taught for getting on for 20 years, there does seem to be a lot of insecurity, a lot of instability in those sorts of things. And I wondered what your thoughts were on that.
And fear, isn't it? It's there's no permanency to what we're doing.
Yeah.
We had a time when what was the app called? I can't remember what the app was called, and it allowed you to cut a video of like 30 seconds, and there was people who were living off the money claimed by that, and then they closed the app down, and all these people suddenly, that was my main revenue stream, and they don't have it anymore. And they were like, okay, now I've got to learn how to use YouTube. Now I've got to learn, oh my God, and it was like it's like, imagine tomorrow, you go, by the way, YouTube's stopping now. There's people who live off that. Imagine if you go, okay, eBay's stopping now. there's people who eBay trade. They earn their life off eBay. So there's that like kind of fear, and you've got to. Yeah, you're absolutely right that all these revenue streams could stop at any minute, and we don't know where the next one's coming from. TikTok has come about now, and there's a whole thing in community. You should have a TikTok. You've got to do these videos and stuff because it's constantly changing. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And Steve Vai does a really good job. I'm a huge Steve Vai fan. He's a great guitar player, and he talks about how there's all these different things coming up. There's too many. There's all these different ways of earning your money. And that should be seen as a positive. You should embrace all of them and know that at any moment they can all end, because, and here's the news, that you are all your own brand, for the horrible word. You are all your own brand, whatever that has to lean to. So if it's YouTubing, then you have at it and that's it. If YouTube gets taken off, you are the consistent line through all of that. The consistent line through all of that. So your experiences and how you view the world are consistently there, and learn to bend and weave with them. I use SoundCloud. If SoundCloud goes away, I'll move to something else. Right, so the other thing is that there's always the day job. This is the biggest fallacy that they tell you when you're growing up. Your job, be careful, you'll never get a job as good as this. You don't want to change jobs too often, it's a negative that, and you'll never get a job here, never get there. You will there's a job for everybody. If you're just willing to get up early in the morning and shovel shit, there's a job for you. You know what I mean? You work at McDonald's, and that's not to downplay somewhere like McDonald's. You'd be a waiter, waitress, whatever. You can get a job anywhere. So there you go. There's your safety net. I'll give you your safety net. You're always going to have that. Brilliant. Hold on, now let's reverse this. So it's like, okay, you're always going to have a day job, so you can risk whatever the fuck you want. You can do the wild trapeze stuff because you're always going to be able to fall into the net. Now I'll give you the net. You're fucking perfect. Anyone who use here can get a job. It might not be glamorous, yeah? You might have to wear a fucking hairnet, you might have to shovel shit or be talked to like shit in retail. We all know what goes on. But it's always there. That shouldn't be the starting point. That's the end point. It's not the start point. Right, I'll get myself a good job first, and then I'll figure out what my life is. Trust me, you'll be 20 years gone and you'll be in that job and you'll have moved up to middle management and you'll be doing just okay, just enough to survive. Life's just got enough of the leash on you, just enough. Okay, I'm going to start looking after my dreams now when I can, on my days off, after I finish work. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You should start at the high wire stuff, not end in the net. Because that net's always there. Honestly, it's like the government tries to paint that there's 1,000 people going for every job. Maybe there is, but a lot of them are fucking idiots. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. Be punctual, attendance, have a good attitude, and that carries on for life. Turn up on time, don't be a dickhead, work hard, you can have any job you want. You really can. A low-paid, easy job. Now you know that, sound. Now get on with something you want to fucking do. And it might mean that you can't go out on a Friday night with your friends because you haven't got enough money. It might mean you haven't got that PlayStation that you wanted to get because it costs £300 and you need that to pay for your laptop to do your streaming or whatever. You're going to have to make sacrifices, you know what I mean? You're going to have to make that. As long as you know that all these things around you are fucking not permanent. The house you live in, none of it's fucking permanent. None of it's there. Remove all that. They're all barriers. Remove all that and do what you fucking want to do. Now, here's the scary thing. You might not know what you want to do. Oh, shit. Coop's saying, do what you feel passionate about. I don't know exactly what I feel passionate about. Oh, shit. There's only one way you're going to find out. When you're young, so I've heard, when you go out drinking and taking drugs and all this type of thing, it's all fine and what you all here should probably have a drug of choice. Drink, maybe one of it. And it should be a drink of choice as well. When you go out, you have vodka and Red Bull if you're a fucking maniac. You have black Sambuca if you're fucking completely crazy. Or you like a pint, or you like an IPA, or you like whatever. If you take drugs, you might like cannabis, you might like ketamine, who knows? You might like ecstasy. But during the time when you're a kid, you're trying to find what you like. And you dabble this, I don't like whiskey, I like vodka, I don't like whiskey. And you're figuring this all out. And then eventually you go, okay, well, when I go to the bar, I'll have a pint of this, please, and a pack of crisps, and that works for me. The same thing should go for the things that you like. You should explore them to the nth degree. And sometimes they lead to cul-de-sacs, and sometimes they lead to other things. So I originally, when I was a kid, wanted to be in a band and tour the world, rock and roll style. That's not what happened. It was just listen for the waves, see when they're breaking, and fly into those individual waves as they come up, and see where they are. And that's another powerful thing, is that you can do anything. Starting to learn to act. So I'm working with a guy who's a VJ, a video jockey. So these guys does the videos for backdrops for bands that match the music and stuff. And he's like, Coop, you've got a really interesting look, which is like code for ugly. You've got a really interesting look. You could do really well as in acting. And I was like, how the hell do you do acting? Google again, how to act. Download apps, and then all of a sudden, I'm in the Netflix season of this new Sherlock Holmes thing, this film, and I'm in it. How the fuck did that happen? Because I just was like, yes, I can do that, yeah, I'll do that, and leaned into it. Didn't necessarily start out with that plan, but how did I become a podcast host? It just kind of happened because it was, yes, I can do it, I can do that. And it's listening for these moments that ring a bell inside your soul, as Freddie Mercury said. And it rings a bell here, or whatever you think your soul is, and you go, that's me. I believe that when I look in the mirror, I believe that. I believe that that's something that resonates with me. When someone says something racist and you go, no, that's not the right way, and you speak up about it, that rings here. When you do something in an action and you go, this rings something here, this is me. These values are sometimes brought from people you respect, certainly your parents, older brothers, sisters, whatever, and people are important in your life. Start these processes and you explore them and find out what you care about, and those things are what make you speak passionately about them. What you think about fitness and the body and how you should be is imposed by various factors. How you lean into that is your own choice. You know, anything that you're into, you know, that you particularly like, these are all informed things by your environment. And then there's that wonderful quote of Nicholson in Departed. He goes, I didn't want to be a product of my environment. I wanted my environment to be a product of me. That I didn't want to take all those bad things that were coming in, that I wanted to push out and push my ideals out there of what I believed right, what rang inside me, what I believe to be true. And you might not have fully formed ideas of what that is. You might not know how you feel about politics. Someone say, what do you think about communism? What do you think about socialism? And then the same person might go, what do you think about Norwegian black metal? What do you think about laptop tech, bedroom metal? What do you think about this movie? You might not know. But the only way you're going to find that out is fucking getting out there and actually living a bit of life. And you know what? Not being afraid to fuck up as well. You know, I started this podcast and everybody told me, why? What for? And now people are like, can I come on to that podcast? And now, how did you get to speak to so-and-so? Because I said yes. Are we close to wrapping up? Should I wrap this up? Okay, so I'll tell you how my journey as succinctly as I can. I was in a band and we weren't very good. But I was the guy that would book and put us on. I would ring the venues up. I'd ring the venues up and say, can you put us on? I was that guy. And I was quite good at organising stuff. And eventually the band stopped playing a lot because we weren't very good. But the other bands were like, we'd still like you to organise the shows if you could. We'd still like to do some stuff for us. And I was like, okay. So then I started to organise the shows, and then they were like, well, Coop knows how to restring guitars, and he knows how the amp set up. Well, he can do that as well, can't he? Okay, we'll do that. And then before long, what happens is you start becoming the go-to guy. So a band comes up, a band called Kojak, and they were like, we're going to do this shitty little tour around Scotland, and no one's going to come to see us, but you come out with us and be our effectively tour manager, stage manager, whatever. I was like, I don't know what that is, I don't know how to do that, just say yes. So go out with them, learn a lot about doing stuff, and worked hard, just say yes, just to be the guy that can do everything, made a lot of mistakes. And then after a while they come to release an album, they got fairly popular, play some pretty big shows. And so then they go, we've got this support slot with a band called Fozzy, and it's the band fronted by Chris Jericho. We're supporting them on 3 dates of this tour. It's what's called a buy-on, where you pay money to play on a show. We're first on the bill, no one cares about us, but we want you to still do what you're doing for us. So I do these shows and I work really, really hard, and I'm saying yes to everything, and I do everything I can, and learn, talk to people, understand the role, understand how rock and roll show is set up and performed. And about 2 or 3 shows in, the guy that is there is Fozzie's tour manager, is a guy called Toad. And he pulls me to one side and he says, "You're really good at this. How about when they finish up on their buy-on, you come with us and work with me to do the next couple of shows. There's 7 more shows." I'm like, yes, I can do that, yes. I just say yes. And so we get about 3 or 4 shows in, and we're still in UK at this point. And he's like, "I've got to go and do a fly-in." A fly-in is a show where they literally fly you in to do 2 or 3 shows as a tour manager or whatever, and fly you back out. That's all it is. And you literally fly in, run the show, and go. And there are these one-offs that you see bands do. And he goes, "Can you look after the band for the next couple of shows?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can." Yeah. So I go in the space of 2 or 3 months to meeting Chris Jericho. I'm a huge wrestling fan growing up. I see him and I'm shaking hands with him, and he's like, "You're running the show now and you're doing bits and pieces." So we go out and we do various shows, and it starts to become quite clear that I'm Toad's guy that he's using for everything, and I do everything. And I come off tour and I'm like, "That was fun. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do." And then Toad rings me up. I need you to start doing this show. I need to start prepping this. I need to start doing that. And before long, I'm doing more and more shows. And then I go out with, he says, there's a big run of shows now going around Europe with a band called Ugly Kid Joe. Don't know if you've ever heard them. They do a very famous song called Everything About, I Hate Everything About You, I think it's called. I tour with them for years doing music. And they were huge during the late 90s. They were a huge rock and roll band. And I'm out doing things, and we go around Europe and stuff like that, and I get to see these beautiful, fantastic locations, and it's all still building. And then I go out again with Fozzie. Fozzie have now exploded. Chris is now the host of the Golden Gods Award, which is a huge metal event in London, which is a whole awards thing, and there's a whole bunch of stories I could tell about that. But the 2 things I'm leading to, 2 pivotal things I'm leading to are this. So you must be aware of the Download Music Festival. You're aware of that huge metal festival that happens down south. And Fozzie are playing that at about 1:15 in the day or something to maybe 36,000 people or whatever. And we do that show, and I'm helping Toad do this whole thing. And afterwards everybody in the band splits and they all go. And I'm still with Chris because I like hanging out and wants to learn as much as I could. And Chris goes, "I'm just going to have to nip off somewhere and do something." And I meant to really stay with him and kind of help him and show him where he's meant to be going next and sign stuff for him, whatever. I said, "You've got to come back. I can't leave you on your own. It's only 5 minutes." So let's play a little bit of Game of Thrones time traveling here. So let's go right the way back to when I first listened to music as a band. I listened to Metallica. Metallica are my guys. Hetfield, the lead singer James Hetfield, is my guy. He's the guy I looked up. His opinions enforced my opinions. I loved him as a person. He was one of those guys. Huge fan of Hetfield. I downloaded that particular year. Metallica are playing in full, which has now become quite the thing to do, the full album of a particular thing. So they're playing the Black Album, which was their biggest selling album. It's an album that regularly sells 10 million copies a year, won a ton of Grammys, watershed moment for metal. It's one of my favourite albums. And they're playing this album in full. So that's still in my mind. So let's go back, forward again to Chris going off. Chris comes back. Comes back with a pass about that big, huge pass with the cover of the Black Album on in weird tinfoily thing. And he goes, "There's your bonus for the show." And I'm like, "What's this?" And he's like, "Side of stage for Metallica." I don't know correctly what this means. So we go up as everybody's prepping. The second last band are finishing up. Metallica are due to take the stage. I go up this walkway all the way up. Pretty soon we're going past security and other famous people, and we're still going forward, closest to the stage. I'm like, what the hell is this? Get to the side of the stage, and I'm at the side of the stage. This is downloaded in front of 100,000 people. And I'm like, I'm still this guy that just said yes to everything and just started learning how to do this. And the house lights go down, and James Hetfield comes up there, and he has a thing where he was burned very badly on one of the tours from some pyrotechnics, so he's very superstitious, so he fist bumps, cliche fist bump, with every member of the crew before he goes on stage so nothing bad happens. And he turns to me before he goes on and offers his fist up to fist bump. I'm still this 15-year-old kid that thinks so I fist bump James Hetfield, and I'm still high from that moment. And he goes out. Just before they start, just before the first notes ring out, Chris turns to me and says, I'm sorry to do this to you, Coop, but that pass that you've got, I've promised to the then editor of Kerrang. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to have to go back down, give that pass back to him, and I'll see you on the bus. And I'm like, at the top of the mountain, I'm going to have to come all the way back down. And he said, unless you can think of a better way of doing it. And so I turned to the biggest fucking bouncer I could find, biggest guy. And I said, my name's Coop. I'm stage managing and doing some stuff with Chris and Fozzie. I'm going down to give this pass to the guy from Kerrang, and then I'm coming back up. I need to do it very quickly, so I'm not going to get into this bullshit. If you're going to stop me, check passes and all that. I said, I just need to. He goes, Coop, stand on me, you're all right. And he got one pass. Head down, give the pass to James. I said, come up with me, run up. I've not got a pass, he has, shouldn't really be there. Goes the guy, all right, boss? He's like, yeah, keep going, Coop. Off I go. There I am, stand next to him, turn to James, give us that pass, and then took it off him. Chris said to me, he's like, I passed the test, if you will, and then I get to watch the Black Album, one of my favourite albums, from the Better, played out right in front of me. Same guy that went to Scotland with Kojak, with this pass. Now at this point, if we were on a date or something, I would pull this pass out, and that would, that down gold. And then the only way that gets any better is the next part of that story. So we go out with the Ugly Kid Joe, and they play all around Europe. And we get told that they were going to be playing the Polish Woodstock. I'm all the time saying, yes, just do what I can, work what I can, learn to do guitar tech, and learning everything. And they go, you're playing the Polish Woodstock. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Polish Woodstock. You're obviously familiar with the term Woodstock. Huge festival. It's in Poland and it's free. So all of Poland comes, basically. All of Poland comes. It's huge. So the night before, we're getting our meals and stuff out, and the record company pay for that, and they come down because it's huge show. And they're talking to us, and one of the executives from the record company turns to me and goes, just so you know, Coop, it's going to be a very big show. They estimate it's going to be about 250,000 people, and you're the headliners. And I'm like, okay, no worries, seen it all before, it's not a problem. Inside, shitting myself. We get there very in the morning before anywhere opens, and we're sitting around doing nothing, so we don't get to see what happens. Guy comes in, he goes, we're estimating the crowd's now going to be 350,000 people. So it's got to be good, this show. Shit. Okay. 20 minutes before the show, enter Shikari are playing. They finish up their set. Guy goes, comes back in, we're all tuning up and trying to do things, and he goes, the helicopter has been over, and they estimate the crowd to be in excess of 500,000 people. None of us in the crew have ever played. Some of us have toured South America, haven't played something like that. It's 500,000 people. And it's my job with the crew to make sure things go right. And we play the show, and it's incredible, and it's a life-changing religious experience that came from me saying yes, making those first stops. Forgive me if I get emotional, I wasn't going to do this, but I will do. But that's not the real thing. So the guy that helped me do that is a guy called Toby, and he was my mentor, and he's the guy. He gave me a chance when no one else did. He helped me get those shows, which will now live inside me forever. And around December, he contracted quite a serious flu, and he'd already been asthmatic. He was had a thingy, and he goes into hospital, and he goes into a coma, and he doesn't make out, and he's like 5 years older than me, 6, 5, and he doesn't make it out, and you think to yourself, oh shit. I was the yes guy, I worked hard, I tried to learn what I could do, but that's how quick it goes, and that's how little time you have. And I don't want to bring everybody down, like, because that's not what this is about. I'd certainly tell you wouldn't want that. But you have no time now. You have no time left. So now you've got something, you have no time left. Start it now, and get it done. Wow, I should have sold some jokes at the end, shouldn't I? But I listened, I've got to tell these people listening, I wish someone had told me. Well, he did. So that's something. That's all right, wasn't it? That's all right. Thank you. Oh, that's very kind. That was me speaking at Liverpool University. Forgive the quality, sometimes it's booby, sometimes it isn't, but you know that's what you're going to get. I've invested in some, I get some form of income for around doing this podcasting thing. So I've invested in some microphones and some bits and pieces to take out on the road, if you will, with me. So hopefully I'll be doing something which I talked about on Mass's podcast when I was on that the last time. On the last episode on Midnight Mass, where we talked about going out and actually speaking to people in the field. Unfortunately, certain events have stopped that happening, but that's still something I'm going to work towards as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed it. The feedback was incredible from this one. This was from this kind of, when I went to the lecture itself, the feedback of the students was incredible. Very, very moving and interesting to see what they got for it. We're often told that the youth today doesn't want to listen to anybody else. They just want to do their own thing, and it's not true. They want to listen to the truth. They want to hear information. They want to try and help it so they don't make the same mistakes. And the feedback I got from the lecture was absolutely superb. So hopefully, I want to open this up now to everybody, and everybody can hear it. The feedback will be as interesting as well. So as always, please contact, comment, subscribe, and share all that other good stuff that I try not to talk about. I hate those people that do that, where they're like, please, subscribe to this. It's so needy. If you like it, great, listen to it. If you think someone else might listen to it, suggest it to other people. That's really kind of all we're doing over here. As always, I'd normally end this with I'll see you at the show. I probably won't for a while now, but I will see you via the medium of podcasting. Thanks for listening.